What happens when a father thinks thieving is the perfect job for his son? Get ready for The Thief and His Master, a magical tale where cunning lessons lead to a wild chase of transformations.
Hans, a kind, middle-aged man with brown hair and friendly blue eyes, wearing simple green clothes, loved his curious little son. He wanted to find the best life path for his boy, about 8 years old with bright brown eyes, wearing a blue tunic. So Hans visited the quiet church, kneeling to pray for guidance from above. A soft whisper seemed to float from behind the grand altar, clear and surprising. "Thieving? Thieving," the voice gently advised, echoing in the peaceful space of the church. A thin, solemn clerk with spectacles and gray hair quietly stood near the altar, but Hans didn't notice him. Hans, trusting the divine message, left the church feeling a mix of confusion and certainty. He returned to tell his son all about the unusual advice from the Lord. Hans gently explained to his son that the good Lord had spoken, suggesting he learn the unusual trade of thieving. The son, with his bright eyes wide, listened intently, a spark of adventure already in his heart. Together, Hans, a sturdy man, and his small, eager son embarked on a long journey into a deep, mysterious forest. They walked many miles, the tall trees rustling around them, until they stumbled upon a tiny house nestled amongst the leaves. Inside, a small, ancient woman with kind, wrinkled eyes and wispy white hair greeted them warmly. Hans, towering over her slightly, asked if she knew anyone skilled in the art of thieving. The old woman, with a knowing smile, pointed to her shadowy son, promising a master teacher right there. They met the woman's son, the master thief, a tall, slender man with sharp, intelligent gray eyes. Hans, standing firm but polite, asked if the master thief truly excelled at his unusual craft. With a cunning grin, the master thief assured Hans, "I will teach him everything he needs to know, and teach him well." Then he proposed a curious challenge for the hard-working father. Return in 1 year, the master thief, slightly taller than Hans, proclaimed dramatically, "If you recognize your own son, you owe me nothing at all. But if you fail to know him," he added, his voice low, "then $200 will be my payment for his mastery." Hans, a caring father, agreed, though a flicker of worry crossed his face about this strange wager. Hans, with a heavy heart, returned home alone, leaving his son to begin his training in witchcraft and thieving. The young boy, now a student of the master thief, learned quickly and thoroughly, immersing himself in the magical arts. A full year passed, bringing with it a growing knot of anxiety in Hans's chest. He constantly worried about how he would ever recognize his now transformed son, dreading the payment of $200 he couldn't afford. As Hans walked along, his brow furrowed with deep thought, he saw a cheerful miniature dwarf, topped with a bright red hat, who was only about 1/3 his height. The little dwarf, noticing Hans's troubled expression, kindly asked, "Man, what truly weighs so heavily on your mind today?" Hans shared his plight, explaining the strange wager and his fear of not recognizing his clever son. The kind little dwarf listened carefully to Hans's worries about recognizing his son, and then offered a clever plan. "Take a small basket filled with bread," the tiny dwarf advised, his white beard bobbing slightly. "Then go to the master thief's house and stand quietly beneath the chimney." The dwarf, no bigger than Hans's knee, continued. "Look up at the crossbeam inside. There you will see a basket where a little bird is peeping. That clever little bird, peeking out from the basket, is actually your very own son," the dwarf revealed with a wink. Hans, his heart filled with hope, quickly gathered some black bread and hurried off, eager to follow the dwarf's wise counsel. He threw a little basket of bread towards the bird, and a tiny, agile sparrow, his son, popped out, chirping softly. Hans cried out happily, "Hello, my son! Art thou here?" And the clever boy, no longer a bird, was overjoyed to see his loving father. The master thief! His cunning gray eyes narrowed, was utterly astonished and furious that Hans had recognized his clever son. "The devil himself must have whispered a secret into your ear," he hissed angrily, unable to believe Hans's success. The son, who had been the little sparrow, quickly transformed back into a boy, his light brown hair now a bit longer, and his clever eyes sparkling. Sensing the master thief's dark mood, the loyal son wisely whispered to his father, "Father, let us go quickly from this place now." So Hans, strong and relieved, with his son by his side, left the master thief's home and began their journey back towards their own village. As they walked along a dusty road, a fancy carriage came driving swiftly by, its wheels rumbling loudly. The clever son, now a young man, turned to his father with a mischievous glint and proposed an exciting new plan. He declared, "I will now change myself into a magnificent sleek greyhound, and you can earn a great deal of money by selling me." Just as the son finished his clever suggestion, he shimmered and transformed into a large, elegant greyhound with a shimmering silver-gray coat, standing up to Hans's waist. The gentleman in the approaching carriage, a distinguished man in a plush velvet coat, spotted the beautiful dog and promptly called out. "My good man," the gentleman asked Hans, peering from his carriage window, "will you sell your fine dog to me?" Hans, playing along with his son's plan, replied, "Yes, sir, I certainly will." "How much do you wish for such a splendid creature?" the gentleman inquired, his eyes admiring the greyhound. 30 thalers, Hans stated, a fair price for such an amazing dog. Though slightly hesitant, the gentleman exclaimed, "Man, that is a great deal of money, but he is truly a very fine dog, so I must have him." The gentleman took the greyhound into his fancy carriage, but as they rode a little farther, the clever dog swiftly sprang out through the carriage window, back to his father, transforming instantly into the young man once more. The loving father and his clever son, sharing a triumphant smile, continued their happy journey homeward, delighted by their successful escapade. They arrived back at their cozy house, full of stories and ready for new adventures. The very next day, the air buzzed with excitement, as a bustling fair was set to take place in the neighboring town. The imaginative youth, now a young man full of bright ideas, approached his father with another fantastic suggestion. "Father," he began, his eyes gleaming with a new plan, "I will now transform myself into a magnificent, strong horse, and you can sell me there." He then added a crucial warning, his voice serious. "But when you have sold me, you absolutely must remember to take off my bridle. If you forget to unclip that bridle," the son explained, "I will not be able to change back into your son again." Hans, a loving father, took his son, now transformed into a majestic horse with a glistening chestnut-brown coat, to the lively town fair. The horse stood tall and proud, nearly twice Hans's height, drawing many admiring glances from the crowd. To Hans's dismay, amongst the bustling fairgoers, he spotted the cunning master thief, a tall man in a dark cloak, his piercing gray eyes scanning the stalls. Without hesitation, the master thief approached Hans and, after a quick negotiation, bought the splendid horse for 100 thalers. Hans accepted the payment, but in the excitement and speed of the sale his memory betrayed him. The father, quite flustered, completely forgot the youth's vital instruction to remove the horse's bridle before leaving the fair. The master thief, with a triumphant smirk, led the beautiful horse, still wearing its crucial bridle, away towards his own home and stable. The master thief, chuckling to himself, quickly brought the magnificent horse to his stable, ready to keep his rival's clever son trapped. He led the beautiful horse, still burdened by its bridle, into a dark stall, confident in his cunning plan. Later that evening, a kind young maid, with braided blonde hair and a clean blue dress, crossed the stable threshold to check on the animals. As she walked by, the horse, to her utter astonishment, suddenly spoke with a deep, clear voice from the stall. "Take off my bridle, please take off my bridle," the horse pleaded, its voice sounding strangely human and desperate. The maid, slightly shorter than Hans, stopped dead in her tracks, her eyes wide with shock and wonder. "What?" she stammered, barely believing her ears. "Can you truly speak like a person?" Recovering from her surprise, the compassionate maid swiftly untied the bridle, freeing the horse with a gentle touch. The moment the maid removed the tight bridle, a shimmering light enveloped the magnificent horse, and it instantly transformed. In a blink, the great horse became a tiny, quick sparrow with brown feathers, no bigger than the maid's thumb. With a joyful flutter of wings, the little sparrow darted through the stable door and swiftly flew out into the wide-open night sky. Suddenly, the master thief, who had felt the magic shift, transformed himself too. He became a slightly larger, darker sparrow, his fierce tiny eyes blazing, and immediately flew out, chasing after the first bird. The two sparrows twisted and turned in the air, a silent, tense chase under the pale moonlight. The chase continued, swift and silent, as the two sparrows soared higher and higher. They seemed to vanish into what looked like a shimmering pool of water, where they transformed once more. The master thief, with a flash of scales, became a dark, cunning fish, ready to continue his pursuit underwater. But the clever son also changed, becoming a graceful, quick-moving fish with shimmering scales, darting through the cool water. They began a new game of wits, casting lots to see who would outsmart the other. Again, the master thief, despite his cunning, found himself outsmarted, losing the underwater challenge. Determined to win, the master thief erupted from the water, his form shifting dramatically once more. He transformed into a proud, vibrant cock, flapping his colorful wings and crowing loudly on the riverbank. But the clever youth, not to be outdone, also burst from the water, his shape changing with incredible speed. He became a sly, swift fox, with intelligent, watchful eyes, and a bushy, reddish-brown tail, about the size of a medium dog. The fox, quicker and more cunning, lunged forward with a sudden, decisive movement. In a final, swift motion, the fox ended the master thief's trickery forever, ensuring he could no longer harm anyone. The master thief, having lost his last battle of wits, remained defeated, and still to this very day, bringing an end to his mischievous ways. And so, the clever son and his kind father returned home for good, their adventures finally complete. This tale teaches us a wonderful lesson about being clever, observant, and always remembering good advice. Even when facing a tricky situation or a very cunning person, wisdom and quick thinking can help you overcome any challenge. It shows us that loyalty and love between a father and son can help them through the most unusual exploits. Always try your best, stay alert, and sometimes a little help from a tiny friend can make all the difference. Remember, honesty and kindness, like Hans and his son showed, always win over trickery and greed.
Ever dreamed of being the hero? Now you get to be the star. Your adventure starts at TalesMio. Visit talesmio.com now.